Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Cristani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I'm joined by the lovely Dr. Chloe Weber, who has a DACM and L.Ac and is the founder of Noxi Herbs, a women's health company dedicated to supporting hormonal balance and vitality through the wisdom of traditional Chinese medicine. With a doctorate in acupuncture and Chinese medicine and years of clinical experience, Chloe has created a modular herbal system designed to work with the natural rhythms of a woman's cycle. She is passionate about helping women understand their bodies, reclaim their energy, and feel empowered through simple holistic solutions. Chloe is also the founder of Radical Roots and has been featured on top wellness podcasts, including The Human Upgrade and Wellness Mama. So a big welcome to the show, Dr. Chloe.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
So I have so much to ask you because I know you were saying that you're a mum as well and you're trying to juggle all these things at once. Plus
Always.
helping women honor being women. And I think sometimes it's important that we bring up that when we try and help women and we're a mum as well, we understand. We understand how complicated life can be.
Absolutely. Well, that's fundamentally why I want to start the women's line, is because I'm in such tremendous awe of the other women and mothers in my life. And as a 42-year-old woman who is starting the fun transition into perimenopause, I'm like, anything I can do to support these other women who are my absolute heroes going about just day-to-day life, doing the absolute impossible and carrying way more than we were ever supposed to carry in our society. I'm like, anything I can do to support these women, I am like so honored to be a part of that journey. And Chinese medicine is such an incredibly beautiful way to support women's hormones. So I just really wanted to get out there and help other moms and other women, because truly women are my heroes. I mean, I don't know what our society would do without us.
They would have man flu all the time. No, I'm not stereotypical man. I feel it's so because I've always been pulled to acupuncture myself, and I have like some Chinese traditional Chinese medicine herbs and things like that to support me through my journey. So what inspired you to go study it and learn about it and become who you are today?
I mean, practicing Chinese medicine is truly one of the greatest honors of my life. It is, I always like to remind people, it is a centuries old medicine that has had millions of doctors add to our evidence-based body of knowledge, right? And Western medicine has been around for 100 years and is the third leading cause of death in America. Whereas Chinese medicine has its safety and efficacy over thousands of years, right? It's not just like a woo-woo medicine. It's a really beautiful medical paradigm. So with Chinese medicine, I sort of got into it because I really wanted to look into public health. And that was something that was really calling me. When I was in high school, I was on an outward bound type hiking trip in Costa Rica and ended up with a rare tropical disease called cutaneous leishmaniasis, and started looking into the ways that we are shifting health in society based on our actions as humans. And so like how deforestation is spreading disease and how all these different things are interplaying. And so I got very interested in public health and then started looking into what I could do in terms of being a Western doctor. And it just didn't really call to me. It just seemed like you were just putting a Band-Aid on different things. And I had done acupuncture for a couple of different things before, for allergies, for quitting smoking cigarettes when I was younger, but I didn't really understand too much about it. And then I wandered into a school of Chinese medicine when I was in the process of applying for both nursing school and public health school, and saw walls and walls of Chinese herbs and just fell in love. And I knew that this was a way that we could really support public health, because Chinese medicine is really about not just addressing the symptoms that are presenting and potentially just masking those symptoms with a pharmaceutical, but addressing the underlying patterns of disharmony within the body so that we're actually building health over time. And so it has just been a 15-year love affair. It's so much fun. I could nerd out on it all day, every day, which is pretty much what I do. And it just blows me away how incredibly effective this medicine is. So it really is truly an honor to be able to spread it in any small capacity.
Yeah, and that's such a beautiful I love that the universe accidentally put you in a Chinese medicine class, right? Like, you just like, "Oh, I'm looking at this and this and, oh, where am I?" And, nothing's everything's by design, long term, but at the same time, thank goodness they did lead you into that classroom and you found and I can feel it, you're just so excited about sharing all these herbs and, for me I fully agree with your statement of what you said that Western medicine just puts a band aid over what's going on, right? They don't look for the cause of things. And I had this experience when I was younger and I kept having this foot spasm. My foot like was cramping like this and it was getting worse. And I didn't know what was going on. And so default, you go to the doctor. And the doctor recommended, I was in my early 20s, recommended I go on an anti arthritis drug and go have an x ray
Science.
for a
That's what I
muscle
always see in shit
spasm.
like that. I'm like, science. That's science. That's good science right there.
Yeah, I'm there getting this x-ray and I'm like, shouldn't I be having an ultrasound? And the guy's like, yep. And I was like, okay, thank you. Anyway, and then I had my acupuncturist a few days later. He goes, why didn't you call me? He puts one needle in my foot and it releases the whole spasm. And I almost cried in relief because it was so amazing. But then a few weeks later, I figured out that I had a magnesium deficiency. And then I went to a naturopath and I was like, hey, I've got a magnesium deficiency. And he's like, oh, everyone thinks that. And then he started testing me with muscle testing. He's like, you are the most magnesium deficient person who's walked in this room. And I was like, thank you. And within a week, everything had stopped from being on that magnesium. So, what else do we know about herbs and what else do we know about that? And that inspired me to start to look for alternative ways of healing the body and working with the body. And yep, then I fell into herbs, doing my intuitive healing work. So it's really interesting how, like you said, there's just this band aid. But I still remember I was at university because I was doing a Bachelor of Applied Science degree. They said in this class, Western medicine only treats the physical symptoms, whereas Eastern medicine looks at the cause. And it stuck with me from that moment. And again, it just kept emphasizing that need to look deeper. And even people, if they're not aware, like the meridian systems and how much they play a part and how you can play with, well, support them using herbs as well.
Oh, it's incredible. Well, and there's a place for Western medicine.
You can't wrap herbs around it, right? You still need to go get it set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like if you have an emergency, go to the hospital, right? But like when you're talking about chronic health disorders, like Western medicine and Western medical doctors, who I am certain almost every single one of them have gotten into medicine in order to be helpful, they are not trained to understand how the body works as an ecosystem. Like they're just taught certain pathways and certain pharmaceuticals to address those pathways, but they don't understand how that pathway is integrated into the full system and how the mind and the body are connected. Like, what a freaking absurd concept that, like, if you are having issues with your mental health, you might have issues with your physical health and vice versa, and Chinese medicine really just honors that. So to me, it's always like, okay, can we look at the underlying patterns? Can we look at what's going on underneath and try and address it with diet, with lifestyle? Like, do you need more sunshine? Is there somebody in your life who is just making you miserable? Like, what is going on? What's the full scope of what's happening in your life and how can we address that naturally? Then if it's not herbs, acupuncture, lifestyle, then we can start looking towards pharmaceuticals when it's necessary. But most of the time, it's really not necessary. My son Remy has a rare genetic disorder. It's called FCXBP1, right? So it's one of those catastrophic genetic disorders. So Remy is nonverbal. He didn't walk till he was 6. He has Parkinsonian-like tremors, intractable epilepsy, cognitive disabilities, everything, right? Happiest human in the world. Best kid I could ever have possibly dreamed up, and I never would have dreamed up this child. I'm obsessed with him, right? Remy is on 0 pharmaceuticals, 0. And most of the kids with disorders similar to his or with his disorder are on 5 to 6 different forms on average. And I would say, and those doctors have no idea how those pharmaceuticals are interacting within the body.
Mm.
So they're just chasing these symptoms and causing more havoc, more like emotional dysregulation, more neurological and nervous system dysregulation, and more issues. I mean, so many of them have chronic digestive issues, which are going to lead to chronic neurological disorders. I mean, it's such a mess, and it breaks my heart. Meanwhile, with Remy, it's like, okay, his diet is locked in. I'm obsessive about what that kid puts in his mouth, and that kid eats more than like most 400-pound men, right? Next, he's on his herbs, he's on his supplements. Then, if something comes up, then we address it with the herbs and we try and figure out what's going on. So, if somebody as complex as Remy can be supported naturally, then anybody can, in my perspective and in my clinical experience as well.
So beautiful. Thank you for practicing what you preach. I have to say, you know, because it doesn't
Or,
always
man.
happen. Yeah, I imagine it would be. And my background is a speech language pathologist. So I worked with a
Oh, that's
range.
awesome.
Yeah, so I worked with a range of people, well, children, I should say, with complex disorders. And like you said, they were on these cocktails of pharmaceuticals, and I'm sitting there because I'm like can do intuitive work, and I'm like, their liver is shot. They're only 3 or 4, and their liver is not coping. And I said to the parents, like, you need to seriously do some support for their liver. Like, I'm really concerned. And they're like, oh, no, like the doctor said. I said, you need to do some support for the liver now because it's just hanging in there, and it's like people don't realize that, especially, alcohol and any sort of drugs like that, they build up in your system and your liver takes the brunt of it. And if your liver goes down, because, I briefly looked at, if your liver goes down, everything goes down. Like it's the fundamental organ, you want your liver functioning. Otherwise it impacts every other meridian system, every other system in your body. And then everything starts to fall apart.
Yeah. No, it breaks my heart because I watch, we just had a conference for the kids with my son's disorder in Colorado this past summer. And I'm just sitting there watching all the parents feeding their kids highly processed foods, and the children are rocking and panting and so dysregulated, or they're so zoned out that they can't engage, right? And I'm just sitting there like devastated. And one of the things I've always wanted to do, I've learned so much about supporting, neurological development and disabilities. And it's so hard for me to work with the parents sometimes because a lot of the times they're like, well, we can't possibly do that. And I'm like, I've done that as a single mom on food stamps. So you can do that too. It sucks. It sucks. It's really hard. And it means like a complete change of your lifestyle and how you're doing it. But like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm not in any way more qualified than any other human on this planet. I assure you.
Yeah, I love that and I've had that pushback too. So I understand, like I would say, hey, instead of trying Ritalin, why don't you try Korean ginseng? Or instead of, doing all the crazy cocktails of epileptic drugs, why don't you have a look into CBD oil and, all these other natural things that are coming out. And I had one client and they said they actually wanted to try the CBD oil, but the amount of red tape they had to get through to get approval to get it was ridiculous. So it's like there's two schools where there's like some parents who want to try, but they make it so hard for you to try. And I know and I can imagine for you, Dr. Chloe, you would have had so much pushback from all your doctors and everything about, no, like put them on this and put them on this. And you're like, no. Yeah, anyway, that's just what I feel.
No, it's I mean, luckily, I mean, I'm Brooklyn born and raised, so I'm a New Yorker through and through, and I'm quite the mama bear, and I'm just like, I'll just challenge them all day long. I'm like not patient or kind to the Western doctors who try and treat my child. You need to calm down, puppy. But what I find is so hard. So I started Radical Roots. So I created a CBD and Chinese herb formula for my son Remy. So it's called Remy's Revenge, right? Because I was like, okay, we've got to deal with this Parkinsonian like tremors. We've got to deal with the sleep. That is not happening. I'm losing my mind. And I really don't want to put him on seizure meds because they're just really toxic to the brain. They're addictive. They make things worse if you try and go off of them. And then once you're on them, you can't get off of them. And then you can't try natural stuff, right? Which is the problem that I see with most of the kids. And so I combine CBD with Chinese medicine and Chinese herbs, and it's such a beautiful formula. It works so well. But what I find is CBD has so many hoops for so many people to jump through, as you said. I've never been able to run an ad for that company whatsoever. So it's exhausting. And then B, most of the kids or adults who want to try it are already on so many pharmaceuticals that we can't unravel that web in order to get them on the CBD. Like CBD is safe with a couple of
Mm.
anti-epileptics, but not with all of them. And either way, I really don't want to just add to the cocktail uh, because I don't know how the CBD is interacting with those farms. So it's a really tricky place, and similar to the doctors, like I would never want to shame another special needs parent because all special needs parents are doing the absolute best that they can.
Yeah.
And like this is a survival game. I often joke and it never goes over well, but like special needs parenting is like running a marathon uphill, but it literally doesn't end unless one of you fucking die. And that's the real of that situation. And that doesn't mean that it's not magical. It doesn't mean that it's not beautiful. As I said, I'm obsessed with Remy. He is perfection, but it is incredibly challenging. So every parent is doing their best, but particularly parents of kids with special needs. But if they really understood and palpably could see the difference that it would make for their kids, if their kids were able to be off of farms and be on high quality foods, I think that they would be able to make different choices and make the sacrifices to do that. But I think it's very hard, especially when the Western doctors are saying these things don't matter whatsoever.
Yeah. And I feel too, it's like then you get kind of gaslit a little bit too, right? It's like, and I was on a panel a few months ago, and we there was 5 of us, and we all had stories about being gaslit because we were women and we were standing up for what our intuition and what our guts were saying. And it's only the stronger ones that we can really push back. And the other problem with being on farms and that sort of thing too is that it has an addictive quality. Like people don't realize that you can't go cold turkey on them because they've already set up this kind of addictive system, and if you go cold turkey you actually go into like a shock because you go off it
Oh
really
yeah.
quickly. And how long it stays in the system, I remember listening to this interview and they're like, yeah, it took this kid 3 to 6 years to get rid of the full effects of the medication, especially in this case they were talking about Ritalin and ADHD
Yeah.
drugs. And I was like, I had no idea. Like I knew it had some sort of lasting effect, but I feel too, Dr. Chloe, how you've got this beautiful solutions for children, but the mums need the support too, right? Which is circling back to what you started, because like you said, if you go, I always used to tell my clients' parents, if you go down, then what happens? Especially if you're a single mum or not, still the mum normally is, especially the one that's like whoever's the stay-at-home parent, needs that support around themselves as well to address the stressful situations and address everything that's coming.
Well, so one of the things that I hated most when Remy was first getting diagnosed, which he didn't get diagnosed till he was 2.5. But everybody would say, put your oxygen mask on first. And then in Chinese medicine, we always say, treat the mother to treat the child. And you're there in the fire and you're like, go fuck yourself. I have to take care of my kid. Like something's going on and I will give every bit of me in order to take care of this child. Yeah. So like no mother's instinct is like, let me take care of myself before my child ever. Right. And like, then you burn yourself out. So like when I say it, I'm saying it from like deep understanding that like I have burnt myself out to the point that like I was concerned about Remy not having me. And so like I started Radical Roots for Remy. I used to take him to Ecuador for a month at a time to do neuro rehabs down there, oxygen therapy, alpha brainwave stimulation, ozone, all these different things, right? So we went 6 times. So for 6 months, we've done intensive therapies, Malello method, family help, everything, right? I did everything I could for that child. And then it finally dawned on me, and I realized that like any inch stone he can get does not matter in the grand scheme of things if he doesn't come home to a happy and healthy mom, right? Because like I'm his person and what I do regulates his nervous system, regulates and sets the tone for his entire life. Like, and if I am so burnt out that I can't even engage with this beautiful child who relies on me for everything, then it's just not worth it. And so since then, I've like stepped back a solid amount on therapies with him and he's doing great. He's living his best life. And so am I. And like, it doesn't mean that we don't have challenges. We just dealt with a house with mold and radon and carbon monoxide,
Oh,
and we had to navigate
yay!
that. So much fun, you know? We did stem cells, and that was actually really phenomenal for him. But it's, I really do think it is essential as women to take care of ourselves, especially if you're mothers. And it doesn't matter if your kids are neurotypical or not. Like, we set the tone for our families and we need to take care of ourselves. And if it takes you gaslighting yourself and saying that you're doing it for your children, then do it for your children. It's so funny to me because, like, I have a podcast also, which I've had on hiatus, and like, I keep looking at it and I'm like, why do I listen to a lot of men's podcasts? And I'm like, because men have the time and the space to do this because a woman's in the background taking care of the rest of his fucking life. Like, women don't have that level of platform because we are busy running the household and our families and taking care of every detail. And the mental load of that makes it very hard for us to prioritize the things that we find most important, and it's like, it's finding that balance of like being able to show up and be present for our kids, especially as they're young, because it's so important. And I would never want to regret
Yeah.
working more to make more money or to whatever when I could be present with my son. But on the flip side, I also don't want to neglect the side of me that also has professional and personal interests and things that I want to accomplish and achieve. And so it is a very hard balance, but I really do encourage any woman out there to try and find that balance, try and find yourself again also,
Yeah.
because really, as I was saying before, that sets the tone for your entire family. And that really sets the tone. We do not want to raise another generation of little girls who are going to be doing the emotional and physical labor behind the scenes of these men who are often less confident. Sorry, I have a son.
I know, I
Like,
do too, but at
love
the
men,
same but
but
at
I
this
just need to be realistic about it.
yeah, and at the same time, we want to teach our sons that it's okay for women to have both things too. Like, we can still show
Yeah,
up and be at home, but we can still work on our business. And, that's what I was just saying. Like, when my son came in, it's like, actually, no, this is my time right now. And this is my time. Let's move on and let's work through this. So it took us a good 2 weeks to figure out because I was the one working and I wasn't the stay at home. My husband was stay at home dad. And then I was like, I can't keep working. And it was, like you said, missing those younger years and missing those moments that truly you can't get back because once you miss them, they're all grown up and you can't see them again. Like my son still comes in for cuddles in the morning and I don't care. I do sometimes because I'm so tired, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't get, he'll stop doing this one day and I won't get the cuddles anymore and I won't get the little kisses on the cheek. It's like valuing those moments that you have with your children while you can still have them, but keeping, like you said, keeping yourself alive within that, because if you're not happy, it's not going to flow on. And kids are little emotional radars. If you're sitting there depressed all the time, they're going to feel that and then they're going to react.
absolutely. It's like that saying, the days are long, the years are short. Like, my son is 11 and a half now. He's almost as tall as I am. Like,
Wow.
I don't even understand what happened. I put him to bed every night and I'm like, who is this? Like, and I'm always like, you were in my belly and now you're a big person and I'm so confused and it just breaks my heart. And like, I love every stage. I like don't understand how he continues to get cuter. It feels inappropriate for him to be as adorable as he is, but it's like, it really does go so fast. And I know it doesn't feel that way when you're in the thick of it. Like, it really doesn't, especially when they're young. Those days go by really quickly, and then soon you have kids who are really autonomous. I mean, not for me, but for most. But it's I think there's a statistic that like 90% of the time that you spend with your children is spent before the age of 12, because then they just get more and more independent. They go off to college, they do things. And so it's like, when you think of that, like, you realize how precious that time is. And so it's like, does it really matter if the house is perfectly clean? Does it really matter if you do X, Y, or Z? Like, what are the actual priorities in terms of spending time and quality time with our kids right now? Because we're not going to have now ever again.
100%. And I love that you frame that because and that's the whole point, like learning to be present and be in the present moment. Kids just want our presence. They don't don't care if they don't care if the floor needs a mop or a vacuum, or there is a limit when you start seeing things crawl across the floor that you really need to maybe clean it. But at the same time, it's funny because my husband comes home and he'll just start vacuuming, and I'm like, that didn't even cross my mind today. Like, I know sometimes we have a little rabbit that jumps around, so sometimes we looks a rabbit poo, and then I'll go, okay, I really need to vacuum this because there's just too many poos here. But I'm like, that's so low on my priority. But I didn't realize how much he vacuums a day until like it was the weekend, and I was like, wow, why are you vacuuming before we're eating? Where's the logic in that? Half our child's food ends up on the floor. Like, why are you vacuuming now? Wait. And at the same time, it's just finding those moments that you can be present and have fun and remember what it's like to be a child, and that joy that can come from that too.
Well, and also I've learned a lot about, like, I think I had all these, we all have these visions of what parenthood is going to be like. And mine was completely fucking thrown on its head, right? Nothing. I named my son Remy because that was the only name I could picture calling from the side of the soccer field, right? Like, I was like, I don't know who this child will be, but he will certainly play soccer like his mama, right? Nope. It's like, all right, universe, that's fine. But it's like, I think we also have to remember that we have all these hopes and dreams and visions of who our children are. But the more we can honor truly and celebrate, not only honor, but celebrate who they actually are, the better parents we can be, because we really got to take ourselves out of it. Like, a lot of parents like project their, the hopes and dreams that they did not accomplish and different things that they wish they had done onto their kids. And I want them to be just like me in this way. And sometimes it works out that way. And sometimes your kids are a complete anomaly.
Yeah.
Like, Remy just wants to play with bubbles. And like, to me, I'm like, I would love to go surfing. Should I figure out how to adaptive surf or snowboard? And then I'm like, then Remy's going to be in a car for 2 hours. Then I'm going to have to strap him to a thing. I'm going to have to get him in a diaper into a snowsuit onto the thing to do 2 lifts, like 2 runs. And then we're going to drive another 2 hours home. Is that really how he wants to spend his day? Probably not. So why don't I do what he wants to do?
Yeah. And at some point, he might want to go blow bubbles at the beach while you're surfing. You never know. Like, this is, yeah. And this is where it can evolve. And I resonate with that. But it's like, I don't love video games and things like that. But my son is obsessed. Like, he doesn't get heaps of screen time or things like that. But he has like a book about this game and he reads the whole book. So like, he studies how to play it and get better. And I'm like, why am I fighting this? I'm like, what do you want to do when you're older? He goes, I want to run an arcade. And I'm like, that is so fitting. It's just, I was like, okay, well, let's go do some math so you can know how to price things and understand that, and and putting it in terms of things that resonate with them, because like you said, what's the point of putting them in a car for 2 hours for an experience that they might not even want to have the stress of being in a car for 2 hours to go for that experience.
Yeah, well, and like what you said with arcade, it's sort of like, there are 2, and I'm sure you know this, like 2 main educational models for children with special needs. So there's ABA, which many people equate to like monkey training, right? It's very like conditioning. So somebody comes in, you smile, you wave, and then, so you're like training the kids to sort of behave typically in society, right? Whereas floor time therapy, which is what I've predominantly followed for Remy, which is just pretty natural, is just following the child's interests and trying to encourage more and more engagement and development along the lines of their interests. So it's like, okay, so you want to start an arcade. What else goes into that? How else can we teach you what it takes to do this? Like, sure, the video games are a part of it, but you'll learn very quickly that running a business, like, I love playing with herbs. That's my favorite part of what I do. I could write formulas all day, every day. Guess what? I don't get to do that very often when I run a business. I spend a lot of time figuring out how to run a business. And that's okay, but it all goes into it. And so it's like, I love that you're just following his interests and saying, okay, this is what you're interested in. How can we expand on that to include more of the world and the reality of what that looks like?
Yeah, I remember years ago I had this client and he just hated reading and writing. And I sat him down one day because I was visiting him at home. I said, what do you want to do? He goes, I want to design things for Lego. like create the models that Lego builds, right? I said, okay, what do you need to be able to do that? He goes, oh, you need all these skills. I said, yeah, but how are you going to read the emails and write the emails that you need to send that accompany your designs? And how are you going to write the instructions so that they can put them in the pictures? And how are you going to, and he's like, huh, within a month, his reading level and his writing level was up to standard. And his mum and I were blown away. Wow, I didn't think such. She goes, that pep talk changed him completely. And I had no idea. And that to me reflected back that power of really following your child's interest. And I know exactly what you're talking about with ABA versus floor time because I studied both because I was that curious person that went and learned everything. And so I used to use an approach called Hanen, which is, I don't know if you've heard of Hanen, which is child-led learning. But it was always like I would walk into a session and have zero plan. And I'd have students come in and they're like, oh, here's my session plan. I said, okay, keep the goals in mind, but if they don't want to do what you're doing, you got to let it go. They're like, what do you mean? I said, if they don't want to play with the pop-up pirate again today, let it go and see what they want to do and just follow what they need. And following the child's lead is so important on so many levels. But I love how our conversations evolved from herbs to talking about children. Before we wrap up, is there anything you want to mention about Noxi Herbs? Because I know that's why we started today, but we just went on a beautiful other tangent, which I trust was meant to happen.
Well, I'm obviously very good at promoting my businesses. No, I do. I mean, like, being a mom is the greatest honor of my life. Chinese herbs is the second greatest. I will say, when it comes to women's health and hormones, there is no better system than Chinese herbal medicine, whether you're dealing with endometriosis, infertility, whether you're starting perimenopause, in menopause, whatever you're dealing with, go and get an acupuncturist, get some Chinese herbs. I'm really super proud of my products at Noxi. It's like, we buy all the herbs raw. We extract them through an alchemical spagyric extraction technique. Every hand on our herbs is like honoring the herbs in such a beautiful way. And I could not be more proud of them. I really think it's an incredible system. I'm so proud of it. Radical Roots also, same manufacturer, same raw herbs. We're not just getting extracts. I did all the formulations myself. I love them more than anything. My passion will always run towards the kids if I get the chance to talk about it. But yeah, so if you're a mom and you're looking for some support, or if you're a woman and you're looking for some support to become a mom or to balance your cycles, the hormones really do make a world of a difference. And you realize how significant that is once you start getting into your 40s and you're like, oh, this is fucked up.
Yeah.
She's going to get worse unless I address it now. So the earlier you start managing your hormones and regulating your cycle is really telling you what's going on in your body. It is such a powerful diagnostic tool in Chinese medicine. So if you are having irregularities with your cycle, I really do encourage you. We have a free quiz on noxiherbs.com. You can talk to a practitioner. You can schedule a free call with me, whatever works. Take care of yourself. It's very, very important, and you absolutely deserve it.
Beautiful. Well said. Well said. And I asked the guests that come on the show, Dr. Chloe, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
It's a good question. I think I wish that we as a society and a species understood that we are a microcosm of the macrocosm. So when we poison and demolish our environment, we are doing the same thing to ourselves and our health. And unless we start respecting this beautiful planet, we are going to continue to see the demise of health in our society. I'm so uplifting. I'm sorry. But it is
100%.
feel like it's
that's the whole thing. Like, we are nature, we are from nature, we are one with nature. So when people start to realize that, maybe they'll second guess throwing rubbish out the window, or if I'm cutting down that tree, do I have to cut down that tree? And if I do, am I using every part of it, or what is the point of that? It's like that whole American Indian kind of, when they kill the animal, they honor every part of the animal and eat every part of the animal, or use every part of the animal, rather than that consumeristic, we're just going to take and forget to balance it back out again.
Yeah, well, and then when we, like, as consumers, I mean, in America, things feel very dark right now, very dark. shit is fucked up on like so many levels. One of the things that we can do to enact change is to vote with our dollars. And so to me, one of the great priorities in which I put my limited funds to is supporting local farmers and getting clean foods
Yes.
and making sure that they're not covered in pesticides and making sure that our local economy is being supported with the things that really matter to me. And I think that supporting local farmers, supporting clean food, and supporting people who are not poisoning our environment and our children is an important place to put your money if you have the luxury of being able to do so. So I really encourage people to do that. I know you have chickens. Like, the more you can do at home, the more you can support locally. I really do think that that actually does make a change, even if it's just a bit.
Yeah, 100%. And, this is where, the more you can go to the farmers and cut out the middle people, that's so important. It's really interesting. There's a whole other topic. But in Australia, we have two big chains called Woolworths and Coles, and people think they're opposing, but they're actually owned by the same people. And, and these are things like stop shopping there. Just, we'll go there and get the bare minimum that we can't get in other places currently because we're moving, but we also want to source more local things too, exactly like you said, and it actually works out cheaper. It's interesting. We get like 2 massive boxes of organic food or pesticide free food delivered from a farm, and it's so much cheaper than buying it, and it's so much fresher, and it just tastes different. That's the only way I can describe it, because it hasn't been in the fridge or the freezer for months at a hand before
Well,
it gets
I
to
mean,
you.
I think that you lose. I'm reading a book, formerly known as Food. I was thinking of having the author on my podcast, and she was saying that broccoli that's been in a bag or that's been refrigerated for 2 weeks loses 80% of its nutrients, and all of the broccoli at your grocery store has been on the fridge or in transit for over 2 weeks. So it's like you're literally getting more energetically alive foods, and they also have more vitamins and nutrients.
Yeah.
So you feel more full, you feel more energy from it, and it's the best medicine that you can get. Diet really is the best medicine, and yeah, if we're literally giving our kids poison,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
they're not healthy.
That's a This is a whole other podcast episode. I love it. Um, and if people want to find you, you mentioned your website before. Where can they find you on social media or listen to your podcast?
So my podcast is Radical Remedy. I will probably be getting back on that in the next couple of weeks. My on social media, it's at Radical Roots Herbs or at Noxi Herbs, and on TikTok I have the Radical Mom also. And I try not to curse too much about the Western medical system on social media, but sometimes I do, and it is what it is.
That's it. Well, thank you so much for creating the time to talk to me, Dr. Chloe. And I know that you're juggling lots happening there as well with these crazy dogs and cats, and that's okay. But thank you so much. And I really loved speaking to you. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.